He was betrayed, unjustly judged, tortured, humiliated, and crucified in front of a crowd, and then he died. But this is not just the story of another martyr, nor of a misunderstood prophet. What happened to Jesus didn't end at the cross. His body was placed in a tomb, wrapped in linen and silence. But his spirit began a journey most people ignore. A spiritual journey that didn't happen in front of witnesses, but shook the entire invisible world. After all, where was Jesus during the 3 days between the cross and the resurrection? The Bible gives clues, Christian tradition offers glimpses, and some apocryphal texts dare to describe what few have the courage to affirm. Today, you're going to discover a side of the story that's rarely told. And maybe you'll never see hell the same way again. Welcome to Arquivos Sagrados USA, the channel where faith, mystery, and truth intertwine. Here, the Bible is not just a religious book, it's a spiritual map, full of codes, symbols, invisible battles, and forgotten revelations. If you're looking for more than shallow explanations, if you feel there's something deeper behind what you've been taught, then you're in the right place. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell. Because what you're about to hear won't be easy to digest, but it could change how you see the spiritual world. Got your popcorn ready? Your video is about to begin. Chapter 1. The Silence of Death and the Noise of Eternity. On Friday, Jesus died, and with that, the world seemed to stop. The sun darkened. The temple veil was torn from top to bottom. The earth quaked. Tombs opened. The dead rose. But to those watching from the outside, it was just a body in a grave, sealed by a heavy stone and guarded by Roman soldiers, while the world saw only the appearance. The Spirit of Jesus was on a mission. According to Acts 2:31, the Apostle Peter declared that Jesus was not abandoned in Hades, nor did his body see decay. That simple sentence opens an abyss of meaning. Jesus was in Hades, but he didn't stay there. What is Hades? For the Jews of that time, Hades was not the fiery hell of popular imagination. It was Sheol, the place of the dead, a place of waiting, where the righteous and the unrighteous awaited final judgment in separate regions. Jesus, upon dying, didn't go straight to heaven. He descended, chapter 2, the descent into the invisible, an act of redemption. Peter 3:18-19 says something even more intriguing. Christ was made alive in the Spirit, in which he also went and preached to the spirits in prison. Spirits in prison, who were they? Why were they imprisoned? According to many interpretations, these spirits were people who had died before the full revelation of the gospel, people who lived before the cross, before grace, before salvation as we know it, men like Abel, like Noah, like the patriarchs and prophets, all waiting generation after generation for what their eyes never saw, but their hearts believed in. Jesus descended to Hades not as a condemned sinner, but as the righteous one bringing justice to those who waited for the promise. He didn't go there to suffer more. He went to set them free. Chapter 3. The Moment of Liberation. The Light that Broke the Abyss. Imagine what it meant for Jesus to be present in Hades. That place, dark, silent, forgotten, was now invaded by a light that darkness could not resist. He entered not as a victim, but as a king, not as a lost soul, but as the one who had conquered death. This is the moment many believe Jesus preached to the spirits in prison, announcing that the promise they had been waiting for had finally been fulfilled. The silence of generations was broken by a voice that said, "It is finished." There was no more debt, no more separation, no more waiting. Jesus was there as the bridge between time and eternity, as the living answer to ancient prayers, and there he set the captives free. Ephesians 4:8 confirms this in a poetic and powerful way. When he ascended on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts to men. Those who were imprisoned weren't criminals. They were faithful souls waiting for redemption. Christ didn't just visit them. He took them with him. Chapter 4. The spiritual confrontation, when hell trembled. But where there is liberation, there is also resistance. The forces that ruled the spiritual world would not give up their possessions without a fight. The dominion of death was not symbolic. It was real. Before the cross, death was the end. Even the righteous did not go. Directly to heaven, everything was blocked. The way had not yet been opened. But Jesus, he carried the keys. Revelation 1:18 records his own words after the resurrection, "I am the living one. I was dead, and now look, I am alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death and Hades." That declaration is not poetic, it's legal. Keys represent authority. He didn't just enter, he took control. The spiritual image here is grand, the Son of God glorified, walking through the domain of the dead, treading upon what once paralyzed humanity. Chains began to break. Rusty gates opened, shadows trembled, and on the throne of darkness, fear took its place. Not because Jesus shouted, but because his presence was enough. Chapter 5. The prophecies fulfilled between two worlds. Nothing that happened was accidental. Everything was written. In Psalm 16:10, the psalmist, 1,000 years earlier, had prophesied, "For you will not abandon my soul to Sheol, nor will you allow your Holy One to see decay." This verse was quoted by Peter in Acts 2 as proof that Jesus fulfilled this prophecy perfectly. He descended, but did not remain. He went there, but came out victorious. What few realize is that those 3 days were not empty time. They were the heart of the most decisive spiritual battle in eternity. Jesus was not sleeping. He was not just waiting for Sunday. He was acting, working in the depths of the invisible world, rescuing, freeing, fulfilling. While on earth, Saturday seemed silent. In the spiritual world, the greatest earthquake in history was underway, and no one noticed. Because this kind of war doesn't make noise with swords, it makes noise with glory. Chapter 6. The silent Saturday and the invisible roar of war. While the disciples wept, while the Pharisees celebrated, and while Pilate washed his hands in peace, Jesus was at war. Not a war with swords, not with words. It was a war fought in the unseen, in the world of those who had already departed, on a spiritual battlefield where no human strength could reach. That's why many consider Saturday the most mysterious day in history. There are no records of appearances, no visible miracles, no movement, but behind the veil, something was happening. The promise made in Eden, the promise that the seed of the woman would crush the serpent's head, was being fulfilled. And it wasn't with noise, but with authority. Chapter 7. When time bows to the eternal. What was happening there wasn't just spiritual, it was cosmic. It was the fulfillment of something that spanned centuries. Hebrews 9:26 says, "He has appeared once for all at the culmination of the ages to do away with sin by the sacrifice of himself." Jesus wasn't just paying a personal price. He was erasing a collective debt that had been accumulating since the beginning of humanity. The cross was the altar, but Hades was the battlefield where he proved that the sacrifice had worked. He didn't go there to be approved. He went to collect the payment, and when he arrived, time had to bow. The ages collided. The ancients saw with their own eyes what they had once only believed by faith. Imagine the look in Abraham's eyes as he recognized the one God had promised. Imagine Moses, who had once led people out of physical slavery, now witnessing the one who was delivering souls from spiritual bondage. The scene was invisible to human eyes, but in the spiritual realm, it was like lightning ripping through centuries of waiting. Chapter 8. The victory that rewrote eternity. When Jesus left that place, he didn't come out alone. He didn't just defeat death, he disabled its dominion. From that moment on, those who die in Christ no longer wait in Sheol. They are no longer imprisoned in realms of shadow. The passage is open. Access to the Father has been restored. The torn veil was not just in the temple, it was in the spiritual realm. And with that, a new era began, an era where death no longer has the final word, where hell no longer sets the terms, and where eternal life is no longer a distant hope but a sealed reality. All of that in 3 days that seemed empty but carried the full weight of redemption. Chapter 9. The keys are in the right hands. Jesus came out of Hades with something in his hands. It wasn't gold, it wasn't human glory. It was something far more powerful: authority. Revelation 1:18 doesn't say he asked for the keys, it says he has them. The keys of death and hell. Keys that once belonged to the realm of darkness are now held by the one who conquered it all. And if he holds the keys, it means he decides who enters, who leaves, and who goes free. Do you realize what that means? It means no condemnation, no spiritual prison, no cycle of guilt or fear has power over those who belong to him, because he already went to the deepest depths and came back with the keys. Chapter 10. What if he hadn't descended? Stop for a moment and think about it. What if Jesus hadn't descended? What if after the cross, he had simply risen again, without going into the depths, without taking the keys, without rescuing the captives? What would have happened to the ancients, to the righteous ones who died before the promise was fulfilled? Would access to the Father truly be open, or would we still be stuck in the belief that death is the end? Jesus' descent into Hades was the second half of the cross, the continuation of "it is finished." It was the act that sealed the sacrifice with authority. It wasn't enough to die for us. He had to descend to where we were bound and open the door from the inside. That's the beauty of salvation. It's not distant, it's not theoretical, it's complete. Jesus went to the deepest place to ensure that no one, in any time, would be left out of the promise. Chapter 11. When he steps where you fell. Maybe today you're facing a different kind of hell, not a literal one, but emotional, mental, spiritual. Maybe you feel stuck in something with no way out, a mistake, guilt, pain, trauma, a silence that seems to suffocate. But I need to remind you of one thing. Jesus has already been to the darkest place, and not only has he been there, he conquered it. That means there is no hole too deep for him to reach you, no cave too dark for him to light up, no chain too heavy for him to break. Your pain doesn't scare Jesus. Your hell is not unfamiliar to him. He faced the darkness, and for you, and came back with the keys. Chapter 12. The eternal impact of the descent. What happened in those 3 days changes everything. It changes how we understand heaven. It changes how we see death. It changes how we relate to fear. Jesus didn't just open the gates of paradise. He made sure that no gate of hell could hold you anymore. And when you remember the cross, remember the silence that followed, because it was in that silence that heaven moved with the greatest power. Christ's descent into the depths is proof that nothing is too lost to be redeemed. Not yesterday, not today, not you. Now tell me, what do you believe really happened during those 3 days between Jesus' death and resurrection? Do you think he faced Satan, that he freed the ancient ones, or that it was all symbolic? Leave your opinion in the comments. Let's reflect together. And if this video touched you in any way, subscribe now to Arquivos Sagrados USA and turn on notifications. Here, the mysteries of faith are not ignored. They're unearthed, revealed. and shared in a way that anyone can understand and feel, because sometimes what looks like the end is just the beginning of victory.